Welcome back to a coffee break with Peloton Minerals and Celerity Minerals. Today we have with us Ted Ellwood, President and CEO of Peloton Minerals, and Corey Safran, CEO of Celerity Minerals. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello.
So before we dive into your most recent press release, maybe one of you can explain to our viewers who don't know the relationship between Peloton and Celerity. Maybe you can describe that a little bit for them.
Yeah, sure, Ted. How about I start with that? And I think some background might be important as well. So I've been in the natural resource sector on the financial side for the last 30 years. So doing investment banking work and M&A and capital raising. And that's my background, much more than the technical side. In August of 2021, after a long process and pursuit of the Boulder property, my company acquired 100% ownership of the mining titles and the historical data. And I know Ted Ellwood and Peloton probably for the last 5 or 6 years, and it was a perfect fit, a perfect partnership to partner with Peloton through the Celerity subsidiary to advance this property. Celerity is a subsidiary of Peloton. The ownership is Peloton shareholders and my company. The plan is to go public in 2022, along with geophysical work in 2022 and a follow-on program of drilling in 2023. So I couldn't be more ecstatic to have Ted and his team supportive to advance this, which I could not have done on my own.
Excellent. Well, it's a great team to have behind you. So Ted, to that point, you did put out the significant press release on the progress at the Boulder Copper Porphyry Project near Butte, Montana. Can you please tell us about what the plans are? Corey touched on it, but what the plans are going forward for 2022?
Sure, I'd be happy to. As you know, the Boulder property is a world-class exploration project, particularly for copper. It's located only 16 miles from Butte, Montana, which was North America's largest copper mine that was ever discovered. But a big project like that doesn't necessarily come together without doing a bit of work. And so we summarized in our press release this past week kind of 3 major broad areas that we are focused on. One is getting the geophysics that we feel is necessary done for 2022. The second is the listing of Celerity as public company during 2022. And that is all gearing toward a major drilling program in 2023 that we estimated in the press release was going to be somewhere between 50 and 80,000 feet of diamond drilling, depending on, of course, our geophysical results.
And so when you talk about the geophysical work, are there any permits that are required for that?
Not for the geophysics, as long as we're not, cutting down trees, that kind of thing, which we're not going to be doing. What we're the geophysics is actually kind of interesting. There has been an extensive amount of geophysics done on that property, but not necessarily anything that's been within the last, 10 or 12 years. So we're going to be using some deep electromagnetic surveys to really try to pinpoint targets within a broad area of copper mineralization. We're looking for a higher grade that we can target. Butte, interestingly, was a similar scenario where it was a great big, large, low-grade copper halo, and within it there were what they called main stage veins that contained the majority of the metal. I think 95% of those of the metal that came out of Butte all came out of those veins, and so that's what we're looking for with the type of geophysics that we're using here this summer.
Wow. So how much of that historical data can you use?
All of it. As when Corey acquired the project, he acquired not only the mining claims and title to it, but also all of the historic data that was done by any previous operator. So we're 100% in that regard.
Excellent. Corey, in the press release, you mentioned, well, you touched on the global demand for copper, and the supply, and it's going to be difficult fulfilling. Can you maybe elaborate on that for our viewers?
Yeah, sure. And I think the geopolitical events happening around the world, the awful geopolitical events, have even more emphasized the need for copper. And we've seen that in the headlines just in the last 8 weeks or so, since the tensions and escalations in Ukraine started. But even prior to that, the movement to electrification, and specifically electric vehicles, is, I compare it to trying to hold back the ocean with a broom. I mean, it is unstoppable. The impact of that demand on the copper supply, I mean, is just enormous. I mean, there's some simple numbers to even illustrate that. I mean, right now, the copper supply and copper demand are sort of even, around 22 million metric tons of copper per year. If only 10% of the current auto fleet converts to electric, that's going to add an additional 50% of demand to the market that is unmet. On the supply side of copper, we all know that it's a long process to discovery or exploration to actual production. It's not like we can have any surprise supply in the next 5 to 7 years. I mean, it's a slow moving process that is visible almost a decade in advance. And there's been an amazing absence of exploration work and dollars spent on the sector. So how does that translate into price? There's lots of numbers thrown out there, but they're all significantly higher. Could it be $5, $6 per pound? Could it be 8 or 10? There's certainly economics to support all of those numbers, but it's certainly going to be higher from where we are today.
Excellent. So gentlemen, is there any final comments that you'd like to leave investors with?
Well, if I can maybe going back to my experience and my background on the financial side, I mean, I've spent a whole career on the investor side of this business and learned many hard lessons. And I will say this, that we understand that a project at our stage needs to offer an investor a significant return that goes along with the risk that's attributed to companies at this stage. And quite frankly, I've always demanded a 10x return when I was on the investor side. And the way we are valuing our company when we contemplate capital raises and IPOs is offering that very same return to investors. And we believe that we can achieve that. We're right on path and on track, as Ted was commenting before, in terms of our plans for 2022 and 2023, to be on our way of delivering that to shareholders.
That's phenomenal. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today, and we look forward to all of the plans coming up in 2022.
Great, terrific. Thank you.